to say thank you, everyone, for comment and all question and loving joining the WildEarth team. It's really unbelievable afternoon. We have seen all the leopards and elephant hippos from myself, Rexon, Ego, behind the camera, and the rest of the team of WildEarth. We say we're loving you. See you tomorrow morning.
Hello, WildEarth fans, and welcome to Penguin Beach. It is a misty, chilly day down here at the Stony Point African Penguin and Seabird Colony. My name is Byron, and I'm going to be your naturalist for the day. Behind the lens, I'm joined by Jason. Jason, welcome back. We are so excited to have you back with us. I'm sure that Jason has been missing the penguins. This is a live show, and we would love to hear from you. You can send us comments and questions on Twitter by using the hashtag @WildEarth. You can also log onto the WildEarth website and register and post your comments and questions under the live feeds. If you're under the age of 18, please send us your questions via email to kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. Let's see what is happening down at the left wing today. We have a number of penguins hanging out together, and they are sitting in one single group. The rest of the beach doesn't seem to have any other penguins occupying it other than at Rocky Beach and towards the hideaway. You'll notice immediately that the tide is low. The rocks behind the penguins are all exposed, and they are hugging the rocks quite closely. The breeze that we are experiencing at the moment is very, very chilly, and the mist in the air is making it very cold indeed. The sun is trying to break through the mist, but the sun is not winning at the moment. Let's head over to the official weather forecast and see what we can expect down here at Stony Point today. (19 degrees Celsius and windy today. I must say that the real feel is a little bit cooler, and that is because of the cold ocean breeze that we are experiencing. The ocean has been very, very cold recently, and that is the reason I couldn't get Cedric to jump in the water with me while he was visiting from the Sabi Sands. Fortunately, I've got my WildEarth sweatshirt on and my beautiful little penguin hat that Jason's girlfriend knitted for my daughter. If you are interested in getting yourself some WildEarth merchandise, you just need to head over to the website and go to the shop section, and you'll be able to find this really cool merchandise. The sun is starting to show on the rocks. You can see that the rocks are lighting up. I can actually feel sun on my face for the very first time today. The tide is not very strong. The moon has got a little sliver of a crescent on it, and it is going towards a half moon, so it is a crescent waxing moon. And when the moon goes to its half phase, the tidal influence is not very strong. Hello, Sandra. I really hope so as well. We haven't seen the Penguin Beach characters for a while. I know that Pepper was seen, and Jax was fortunate enough to see Pepper along with Flippy. Of course, the left wing is a very good area to observe Pepper, especially when that penguin comes in from hunting. It is a bit of a challenging time of year because a number of the penguins are out foraging during the day to search for food for their chicks, or they are sitting guarding nests. The individuals that we are looking at today, some are still molting and they are not displaying any courtship behavior. I'll be interested to see if we do find a pair that is in the early stages of courtship.
Hukamore. Oh, here's an impressive looking male leopard. Look at that neck on him. He just looks ready for a fight.
This is only the third time that we are seeing him that is known as the Hukamori male, and he certainly has a lot of character and atmosphere.
This is gorgeous. Hukamuri having a drink at one of the little seasonal pans.
Isn't he absolutely gorgeous? Compact, powerful, focused. I love it.
It is amazing how much weight they lose. They can lose about 90 grams of mass per day during the molting process. But just look how awesome this adult African penguin is looking. Has graduated from being a juvenile and hopefully will not be getting picked on any longer by the adults that are surrounding it. You'll notice it is still hanging out on the periphery, maybe suffering from a little bit of PTSD from dealing with all these nasty adults in the past. But soon this individual will be welcomed into hunting groups as well. Hello, Beverly. That is a fascinating question. And Beverly has asked, are penguins more aggressive when they are molting? So I can tell you they definitely are grumpy because they're unable to enter the marine environment that they love so much because they run the risk of experiencing hypothermia. What does happen during the molting season is that the majority of the African penguins at a specific colony will all molt at the same time. And this results in all these birds gathering together in close proximity. And just by being in close proximity to one another, it nearly encourages conflict because one bird just needs to move in the wrong direction and the bird next to it might peck at it, and it can create a domino effect throughout the beach and the rocks where all the penguins are standing. So there is likely to be more conflict during the molting season because they are just a little bit more grumpy, but it's mainly because they are standing in such close proximity to one another. So nice to see these juvenile birds developing into fully grown adults. I think we do have one pair of adults that are starting to form a breeding pair. I'll see that they are starting to engage in allopreening behavior, displaying the very early signs of courtship, spending time together, either reconnecting with one another after a long time of being separate, or potentially forming a very new pair bond. And during this time, we can expect to observe this pair preening each other.
The unique thing in Juma here, it's all about the characters that are within the property of Juma, and able to follow them and all know the information of all these species. And I don't want to forget the structured communication of the management of Juma, from directors all the way down to the bottom. What made me choose Juma, of course, is an involvement of the landowners in the entire community. Juma play a very good role in the local communities. They have bursaries for children. They help schools building classes. They help community in general with water service, and also help people with delivery of food and clothes for the old people in the local communities. And I've been involved myself. Juma involved me on this. I'm the eyewitness. I was one of the facilitators.
There is good news. The sun has come out and the mist has burnt off. And we can see the ocean nice and clearly. And this individual looks like it has just returned from spending some time in the water, and in typical African penguin style, started to preen itself on the rocks. Kittens, I believe. I hope I got your name correct, and welcome to the show. So there is a saying amongst the locals here in Betty's Bay. When I first moved to Betty's Bay, the locals informed me that the wind is born in Betty's Bay, and that's why it is so windy. So Pringle Bay is a village just down from Betty's Bay. The Pringle Bay locals argue that the wind was born in Pringle Bay. But I believe that it was born in Betty's Bay. And when Cedric was down here from the Lowveld, he actually commented a bit on the weather, and he said, you know, the Lowveld, you can really predetermine what the weather is going to be like. But down here in the Cape, you need to plan for all 4 seasons in one day. You might start off with a nice still day with sunny skies, and then in the afternoon you've got a roaring wind and rain coming in horizontal. So it really is the Cape with storms, and the temperatures are starting to get colder and colder, especially during the evening. And Betty's Bay is on a wetland as well, so there is a lot of water around, which makes it even cooler. And if you add the frigid Atlantic water into the mix, going for a swim in winter can sometimes be out of the question. You do get pleasant days in winter. There are some very nice winter days leading up to the cold fronts that we experience on approximately a weekly basis. Hello, Theo. The water definitely can cover the entire beach. You'll notice the large amount of sea bamboo that has accumulated right up on the high tide mark. The seaweed generally doesn't go further than that in this location because of the penguin protection fence that blocks humans from gaining access to the beach. But if the penguin protection fence wasn't here, the kelp could wash all the way up onto the dune spinach, especially if there is a spring tide, and particularly during a full moon or a new moon, and if that is accompanied by very large winter swells, it can definitely wash all the way up onto the beach and meet the vegetation. On a beach just to the west of us called Silver Sands Beach, I have seen this take place on many occasions. The other day I was walking on Silver Sands Beach and the water had washed all the way up to the dunes and was actually returning to the sea, and it looked like it was a freshwater river, but it was actually the sea just doubling back on itself. It's a very, very interesting question. And look who we have here. Yellow socks. And of course, those yellow socks are the distinguishing feature of this little egret. None of the other egrets have black legs and yellow feet. And look at that beautiful feather hanging from its nape. It really is so beautiful, just dangling in the wind. This is the perfect time to be a wading bird. And what that little egret is currently searching for in that very shallow pool are baitfish that got trapped. So the baitfish would have been washed into that little pool during the high tide, and as the water receded, they got trapped in that little pool and they become exposed to predators. We often see this little egret hunting down here alone, and we seem to have picked up its pattern. On the high tide, it hangs out right here at the left wing. On the low tide, I should say, it hangs out here on the left wing. And on the high tide, it moves further north on the beach where it can find other pools that have fish trapped in them. It's a very patient hunter at times, often standing very still. But today, it is on the move. They can also chase fish through shallow water.
Over the past year, many WildEarth explorers have won life-changing travel prizes.
Today I was told I have won the most amazing prize to go to Maritaba. Oh, I can't believe it.
I am most excited to meet some of the guides.
The animals, the birds, and everything else it has to offer. We can't wait to go.
I would love to take my little grandson up with me on this experience to Funda.
WildEarth has brought so much to my life, and I am thrilled and grateful to have this opportunity.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity to visit.
Thank you very much for this amazing prize, WildEarth.
Sign up to be an explorer today and you will be entered into a monthly draw which could see you jetting off to a dream location in 2022. WildEarth Explorers, it's in your nature.
And the little egret is often coming directly towards us and has flown straight past us up the rocky shores, heading in a northeasterly direction. While we were observing this bird, it didn't seem to have any hunting success. Gladys, you are correct. I think that the little egret that hangs out down here at the left wing should be named Yellow Socks. Definitely appropriate. I love looking at those feet. I can never tire of those yellow feet, especially when they pop up, when they are submerged in water. They are just so bright and they catch your eye. Can't help but notice them. I'll be interested to see if the egret comes back again. But it didn't look like there was much success. I didn't actually see it try and obtain prey at all. There's another wader that is exploiting the low tide conditions, and that is the African black oyster catcher. And looking at this individual, I am noticing that it is limping with its left leg, and I believe that this is the individual that potentially has fishing line or something else wrapped around its leg. And I have been reporting this bird's presence to the relevant authorities, but of course very, very difficult to capture this bird because it flies away when it gets disturbed. Hello, Russell, and welcome to the show. So when there are a number of small little silver fish in quite a large school, it's normally a fish known as the southern mullet, and they come into these shallow pools because they feed on the sand fleas. And the sand fleas feed on the kelp that has accumulated on the beach. They like to feast on the kelp and are very important for nutrient cycling. The mullet gather in those shallow waters, hoping that the sand fleas lose concentration, I suppose, and are feeding too much and get trapped in the water. And then they are easy prey for the mullet. There are also a number of fish known as klipvis, and klipvis translates from Afrikaans to rock fish, and they spend most of their time right on the bottom of these pools, and they have amazing camouflage, and only when they move do you really see them. So they are quite opportunistic hunters, but those would be the main two species of fish that you'll find. You have to look very hard for the klipfish, and the southern mullet are a lot easier to find. You can actually often see them glistening in the light, and they can occupy very, very shallow pools as well. So you do see little ripples on the surface as their backs break the water. There's some vocalizations close to us. And of course it's coming from the birds that are molting here. There was a little bit of conflict. It seems to have settled down, although there is one individual that was looking at the molter, still getting treated like a juvenile.
At WildEarth, our explorers are treated to a weekly newsletter, bursting with fascinating features and never-seen-before snippets. Recently, we have added some brand new sections which we think you will love. Find out what happens behind the scenes with our crew when they are not live on WildEarth. Have a giggle at our moments of the week from both Safari and Penguin Beach. And Ranger Eric answers your questions with fascinating and in-depth explanations as to the whys and hows of nature.
Wild dogs coming out of, or the puppies coming out of the den site, making those very high-pitched noises.
All of this and more delivered to your inbox every week. So what are you waiting for? Head over to our website, sign up to be an explorer, and join the adventure. WildEarth Explorers, it's in your nature.
Still a little bit of bullying taking place, but this juvenile has adjusted its position and has taken up its spot right on the periphery. Arctic Circle, that is a very good question. So Arctic Circle would like to know if it's counterproductive for adult penguins to bully their young. So this specific juvenile might not belong to any of these individuals. I'm not too sure why they bully the juveniles so much. It happens on land, it happens in the water when they are excluded from hunting parties. And penguins living in colonies, colonies do provide a number of advantages. One is, of course, safety in numbers. And the other one is sharing information of food sources. So you would think that cooperation would be beneficial to all involved. Of course, keeping that juvenile on the periphery of all the adults Also ensure that the adults that are more in the center are safe from any potential predators. That's what I deduct from the situation, at least. Arctic Circle, I believe it was you that asked a very nice question yesterday, and you asked what birds have the same memory as an elephant. And I found out by doing a little bit of research that the Clark's nutcracker from North America has an extremely good memory. They hoard seeds and bury them, and they are able to find those seeds and utilize them even years later. They actually even provision their young with those seeds, and the amount of seeds is an extraordinary amount. They can collect up to 33,000 seeds and bury these seeds in up to 2,500 different locations and still find them. I find that absolutely incredible. I would love to see the Clark's nutcracker. It sounds like such an extraordinary bird. Of course, it's just a short skip and a hop over to the northern hemisphere for me from South Africa. Might take me a little bit of time to get there. Hello, Joseph. Thank you so much for the question, and of course, welcome to Penguin Beach. And Joseph would like to know if they bother cleaning while they are molting. So what I've observed with molting birds is that they are often pulling at their feathers because of the discomfort as the feathers are falling out. New feathers are growing out of that exact same follicle. So they will often pull on their feathers and look very, very uncomfortable. I have observed them cleaning their feathers as well. So they will still preen while they are molting. They are susceptible to some external parasites like fleas, for example. And it's so important to keep the feathers in good condition because they are their source of insulation. Without feathers, of course, penguins could suffer from hypothermia. Jason, could we have a look at these awesome characters? You'll see there looks like there's a hardy-dar ibis against one of the rocks blending in with the kelp. Its coloration just suits the environment so well.
All WildEarth explorers have a chance to join our naturalists in a monthly fireside chat. This is a great way to learn more about our guides, animal characters, and wildlife locations. We would love to hear from you as to the topics that interest you the most. Email us your ideas or tweet using the hashtag WildEarth, and we will be sure to take them into account when planning our evenings around the fire in the future. WildEarth explorers, it's in your nature.
There's a big male leopard coming this way.
I've been waiting for a sighting of the two of them like this together.
She just, for me, is just one of the most pretty females out here.
As you can see, we're sitting with the Duke of Djuma Tingana, who is busy surveying his territory as the sun begins to set on another day in South Africa.
So yeah, Jason, you see that point there, that very last point of rocks. It's on the right-hand side of those rocks. I just saw its head pop up. There it is. How difficult is it to find a hardy-dar ibis amongst sea bamboo? As you can see, very, very tricky, especially when it is foraging and is bending over and not exposing its neck at all. And all the hard work that we've done to locate them, they have just flown off in a rush. And that is why they are known as the African alarm clock Can imagine waking up to that at 4 o'clock in the morning. We do have the hardy-dar's cousin, the African sacred ibis, which is a very, very beautiful bird, in my opinion. Makes a completely different noise. The hardy-dar, as we heard, goes ha, ha. Well, the African sacred ibis, I've actually never heard call in the wild. It makes kind of a yapping noise, ha, 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 which would be very, very interesting to hear. I've been wanting to hear that sound for a very long time. Dorothy, welcome to the show, and thank you so much for your comment. You are quite right. The kelp is packed with a lot of invertebrates. There are a number of crustaceans that are busy feasting on that kelp. The sand fleas being one of them. Sea slaters would be another that kind of looks like a cockroach, but it isn't. And then there will be insects such as the kelp fly as well, and this really provides birds like the African sacred ibis and the hardy-dar ibis with an abundant food source that is very, very easy to obtain. Most of the items they can just pick off the soil surface, but they are also able to hunt without even seeing their prey. They can just push that bill deep into the sand, and that bill is packed with chemical receptors and is very sensitive to touch, and they can locate prey just by burying their bills. Those hardy-dars that we were trying to get a good look at were actually pushing their bills very, very deep into the sand, and you could see the sand all over their bills. This African sacred ibis looks like it has quite a clean bill and is preferring to pick prey items up off the surface instead of burying its bill completely. You normally see them in pairs or in small flocks, but this individual has decided to spend its time alone. Very well adapted for life on the coast. We're coming back towards this congregation of African penguins at the left wing. Hello, Amber, and that is a very, very interesting question. So Amber has asked, do all birds that occur along the shoreline nest on the ground? So let's have a look at what occurs here at Penguin Beach. So of course we have the African penguins that nest either on the ground or burrow into substrates such as sand or guano. And then the 4 cormorant species that occur here are the white-breasted cormorant, the bank cormorant, the cape cormorant, and the crown cormorant. They all build platform nests, some out of dead plant material, others out of seaweed, and they will just make those platform nests right on the rock. So they're not actually on the ground, but they're not in a tree. I know that white-breasted cormorants, when they occur inland, because they're not restricted just to the coast, they can actually build platform nests in a tree. The Kittlit's plover that we were so fortunate enough to view yesterday, they just make a shallow little scrape, and so does the water thickney But if we look at the Cape wagtail, they will actually build a nest of fine plant material that will be located in a shrub, generally quite low down, but I have seen the nest about 1.5 meters off the ground as well. So it definitely depends from species to species, and it will even depend where certain species are, such as the white-breasted cormorant. It will nest on a platform nest here at Stony Point on the ground, but when it is inland, it will nest in a tree on a platform nest.
Here at WildEarth, we have added a range of new products and designs for the WildEarth shop. If you love being in nature, then we have a new range just for you. Our animal character line continues to grow, and this week we have incorporated a beautiful Tandy design to celebrate our favorite queen's life. April is Earth Day month, and investing in our planet is the message. And finally, there's a range just for our very own WildEarth explorers. Head over to our shop now and see what you can find.
Look at that, there's a tiny leopard cub. Karula has given birth overnight. Look at the little guy, we just came around the corner. That is incredible, that's probably his first solo kill.
Oh, and have a look, here comes Hosanna with the monitor lizard.
Hosanna, of course, at the same time decided to go climbing up the tree. He's just nearly fallen out of it again.
Look at that, he's running away. The buffalo is chasing Hosanna at the moment. Run away from this very big animal coming. That was so funny.
So this African penguin was moving off by itself, and I thought it was going to come over onto the footpath and go into the nesting area. Then we heard this amazing braying sound, very typical of the African penguin, and of course they were known as the jackass penguins as well. And it looks like this individual actually has a nest right here up against the penguin protection fence. And of course, can see how dense the vegetation is here. And an African penguin's main requirement for a nest is, of course, shade, so that they do not overheat and so that their chicks just so nice to hear that vocalization. I just had to stop speaking so that we could listen to that. They also don't want their chicks to overheat either. Adam, thank you and welcome to the show. Adam would like to know if the males are taught how to court the female. So I've watched many juvenile penguins get reared from chick all the way to fledging, and I have never observed any evidence of such behavior. So it seems to be instinct, or what is known as innate behavior. They are just born with the ability to court and know what to do during the breeding season. This individual is now standing outside the nest. It's got a beautiful breastband. Look at those mottled black patches on the breast as well. His partner was very, very happy to see it. Of course, when they bray like that, like a donkey, they do that to display to their partner. Be very interesting to know if they have already laid eggs. I think they are likely to still be in the courtship phase, and potentially egg laying is still to come. I can't hear any piping noises of the chicks, but we are quite far away from this nest and not trying to stand directly on top of it.
Find a way into the kill to get their fill in there as well. But they're also going to be told off. See, lions are not great at sharing their food. Okay, guys. Let me just taking frustration out on the other lion, but you see, it was interesting.
My favorite thing about WildEarth are the animals and the interaction and the ability to wait and watch and not rush off. You get to watch their behavior and learn about the individuals. I would like to see the hyenas at the hyena den, and I have. Look at that. If I could be any animal, I would be a cheetah. I would love to run fast.
This should give us a clue. If this bird goes out into the water and heads off to go and forage, it is highly likely that this nest either has eggs or chicks. Is making its way down to the water in quite a hurry. My thinking behind that is that it's likely to be hungry if it was sitting on eggs or brooding chicks. First has to navigate the vast amount of sea bamboo that has accumulated. Tobogganing over it. Looks like it's in a rush. Anthony, you are quite right. The feathers really do look like scales, and the reason for that is because the feathers actually overlap, which gives their exterior that scale-like appearance. And it's very important that their feathers overlap because it helps, of course, with insulation and waterproofing, which keeps them warm. Just look how awesome those small little feathers are on this individual's back. I must say, it does really give it the appearance of reptile scales. And this individual looks like it is heading out to see it. It will be very interesting to see if it just goes out to preen and maintain its feathers, or if it actually continues swimming and heads out offshore to go and hunt either for itself or to provision chicks. I heard something ever so slightly, I don't know, Jason, if you heard that as well, sounded like the piping call of the chicks. So very interesting observation that we have just had. It looks like this nest that is right here in the penguin protection fence is in fact occupied and chicks have hatched. Dennis, the penguins definitely swallow their prey whole. It's quite amazing actually. They've got all these hooks on their tongue and in their mouth. And when they isolate a school of bait fish and cause panic amongst them, they will grab those fish and they will swallow the fish head first. Of course, if they swallowed a tail first, it would be very tricky to get that fish down because the scales would hook in the penguin's throat. So when I used to work at Sandcob, it was for a very brief 2 weeks, but I went there for training on how to rehabilitate penguins because I was working at the Boulders Penguin Colony, and we would feed the penguins dead fish in a whole state. It's very interesting, even when penguins return to the colony, they have the ability to switch their stomachs off and they change the pH in their stomach. and the pH becomes more alkaline. And this means that the fish are only partly digested. And of course that is a benefit for the chicks because they have to travel over such large distances to bring food to the chicks. They're not as lucky as seagulls and terns and oyster catchers that can find their prey very, very close to the shoreline. Fighting with the kelp at the moment. I've been there definitely. Growing up in the Western Cape and swimming and surfing amongst it, I know the pain. The first little bit of behavior we observed when the penguin got into the water, you'll notice that it started to clean itself and just wash debris and guano off its feathers, and now has disappeared amongst the seaweed. It's moved away from the shallow water, and we have completely lost sight of this individual.
My name is Amy Macmillan. I'm the owner and founder of Ellie and May and one of the directors of the Macmillan Conservation Fund. My brother Mike and I were incredibly close and both share a great passion for conservation, for wildlife, for nature, for elephants in particular. Tragically, Mike was killed in a car accident. It was through his passion and enthusiasm for conservation and for elephants that really prompted me to start Ellie and May. Ellie and May is a lifestyle apparel brand that contributes towards and raises awareness about elephant conservation. So a percentage of our sales of our caps and our products goes towards the Macmillan Conservation Fund. The aim of the Macmillan Conservation Fund is to support other conservation initiatives through anti-poaching, through the conservation of Africa's wildlife, community upliftment, development and education, and at the heart of it all, keeping Mike's legacy alive.
Can actually hear a lot of activity in this nest. You can hear the chicks calling, and I'm sure they are begging for food from the adult that has taken over care of them. We can't see what's going on in the nest, of course, but we can definitely hear what is taking place. That is so cool. Little penguin chicks just getting fed. This individual is looking nice and wet, and we did see a group of 4 penguins come in on the northern side of the left wing. Moving across the beach. Very nice markings on its flanks. Look at those beautiful penguin feet, elongated, webbing between the toes. Just the ultimate design for the marine environment. Of course, they use those feet as rudders in the water. And there are the other 4. Couldn't count there for a second, so there were actually 5 that came in, and that individual that we were observing has split from the group, and the other 4 are just hanging out on the rocks after spending some time out in the sea. Jordan, welcome. That is an interesting question. Can penguins predict the tide? So I'm not too sure if they can predict exactly when it is low and high tide. They certainly do not coordinate going out to sea with a specific tide. Generally, penguins will gather in the early morning and form rafts and head out to sea together. That is quite typical of the African penguins. Other penguins decide to head out in the evening, and they take a leisurely swim out to the feeding grounds. But as we saw as well, the penguin that just had the changeover headed out all by itself. So it's not dictated by the tides, rather by the time of day or the current circumstances that the penguin finds itself in.
Our Western Cape coastline is graced with the Cape fur seal. This playful species is curious and entertaining. At Hout Bay Seal Rescue Centre, seals in need are rescued, fed and nursed back to health by our well-trained team of dedicated staff and volunteers. This wonderful legacy of the centre is continued as these protected creatures are rehabilitated and released back into the wild.
In the woodlands of Djuma lives a lion pride with a taste for buffalo.
Look, this is insane. Now, this is what I was saying about lions and buffalo. It's absolute pandemonium.
WildEarth have been privileged to follow the Nkuhuma pride for many years. One of the most loved cats in the pride is Amber Eyes. She was not successful in rearing her first 2 litter of cubs and was seen as an aunt to the other youngsters. Then eventually, towards the end of August 2019, we found her with 4 tiny cubs of her own.
We have a visit again from Yellow Socks. Yellow Socks has just flown in and flown off, but has landed back in the same area where it was hunting a little bit earlier, just concealed amongst the rocks. Amazing how a bird that is so bright and white can just disappear from view. It disappeared nearly instantly. Jason, I promise you, you are spot on that bird. Jason was having a look up and looked a little bit confused as to why he couldn't see this little egret, but he was in the right area. It's just given us the slip. There are some heart-lipped gulls that are busy foraging amongst the kelp as well. It's amazing when you observe all the various bird species down here and organisms, how important the kelp is for the functioning of the ecosystem. In fact, the heart-lipped gulls that we are currently observing are restricted to areas where there are kelp beds and where the Benguela upwelling system is along the coast. And that is because they depend on all the various organisms that the kelp attracts. These days, heart-lipped gulls have actually managed to extend or expand their range, and they've learned how to eat earthworms on sports fields, which is quite fascinating. So it just shows you what the modification of habitats can do. It can completely alter the distribution of a particular species. Hello, Catherine. That is such a relevant question, and the kelp in particular has an impact on the presence of the heart-lipped gull, and that is because the majority of their forage items will come down and eat the kelp. Another bird that is dependent on not necessarily the kelp, but the actual Benguela upwelling system where the kelp occurs, is the bank cormorant. And the kelp forest creates a sheltered environment because it breaks up the wave action. And because it creates a calm environment, the west coast rock lobster can occupy the area. And the bank cormorant predates mainly on west coast rock lobster. So in areas where the west coast rock lobster numbers become depleted, you actually see less and less bank cormorants. But what is very special about the bank cormorants is that they utilize seaweed, or this kelp that we can see, as nests. So those are definitely two of the species that require kelp beds for their survival. A number of the other species are not as dependent on the kelp. And look how awesome this is. We have got Mark and Cleopatra, and of course the crazy 8/9. Beautiful little Egyptian geese chicks, just moving in front of their parents.
My name is Tessa. I studied animals and insects, and I specialized in African vertebrate biodiversity. But first and foremost, I am a naturalist here at WildEarth. What inspired me to become a naturalist was a combination of a childhood love and passion for wildlife from our family holidays. It just became this amazing passion, and it ignited this fire that just would not go away. To me, the skills that a naturalist should have would be that passion, making sure that you know why you've got that passion and keeping it going no matter what. The determination to never give up, because it's not the easiest place to be, but I can tell you in my experience it's the best place to be, with the biggest differences that you can make. If I could be any animal, I think I would be a leopard. To me, they're the perfect combination of elegance and power and determination and independence, and yet just so beautiful.
And Dad will come and inspect what is going on, but generally likes to hang out on the periphery and survey the surroundings for any potential threats. So the Egyptian geese do cooperate very, very well as parents. I'm trying to look at the neck size of the individuals. It appears to me that Dad is actually in the front this time, and Dad being Mark and Mom right at the back being Cleopatra. The Egyptian geese really do love this environment, having so much food available to them. They're primarily vegetarian and eat algae and various other bits of plant material. But of course, all those various organisms are also a good food source for them. They are opportunistic as well. There's just something about a baby bird. So fluffy, so cute, and they really, really are loving life down here, and it's a very good place to breed as well. Of course, the ocean affords these chicks protection from one side, and the adults only really have to look out towards land to see if there is any danger around. It is still Leopard Week, and of course we have been celebrating Leopard Week, and it appears that Wrexham is still in the lead when it comes to leopard sightings. Of course, everyone out in the Djuma Private Game Reserve and at Pridelands are going to be looking for some leopards again today. So I wish them the best of luck, and I really hope that we do see some spots out there in the Lowveld. From myself and from Jason down here at Penguin Beach, we would love to thank everyone for joining us down here. What a pleasure it has been to observe yellow feet, or yellow socks I should say, the Egyptian goose family, and this awesome changeover that we saw at the nesting burrow right here in front of us. Cheers, everyone.
This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.